I thought my relationship was built on trust. But when I found out what she was hiding, I realized I had no idea who she really was. The secrets she kept from me shattered everything I believed in. Would you stay or walk away when you discover your partner's darkest secret? It all started out so perfectly. I met Jessica at a party through a mutual friend. She was kind, funny, and unlike anyone I had ever met. She had this way of making everyone around her feel like they mattered, like they were the most important person in the room. From the moment we started talking, I couldn't get enough of her. We hit it off instantly, and within a few weeks, we were inseparable. Our relationship felt easy. We were compatible in ways that most people only dream of. We shared the same interests, had similar goals, and were always on the same wavelength. Everything was perfect, or so I thought. Jessica quickly became a big part of my life. I spent almost every day with her, and I had this overwhelming feeling that I had found the one. We talked about our future together, our plans, and what we wanted out of life. I trusted her completely, and she trusted me. We built our relationship on this foundation of honesty, or at least, that's what I thought. But things started to change over time, and I couldn't pinpoint when it happened. At first, it was small things. She'd cancel plans at the last minute with vague excuses, like work or being too tired. Sometimes she wouldn't respond to texts or calls for hours, which was unusual for her. But I didn't think much of it. We were both busy, right? Life gets in the way sometimes. However, as the months went on, these little changes became more frequent. I started to feel like I was being pushed away, even though I couldn't understand why. I'd ask her what was wrong, but she'd brush it off, saying everything was fine. But I knew something wasn't right. I just couldn't figure out what. One night, things took a turn. We were having dinner, and she seemed particularly distant. She wasn't eating much, and her mind appeared to be somewhere else. I tried to engage her in conversation, but she kept responding with short, disinterested answers. I couldn't take it anymore. Is something going on? You've been acting different lately, I asked, trying to keep my voice calm, even though my heart was racing. Jessica didn't answer immediately. She just stared at her plate, avoiding my gaze. Finally, she sighed, looking up at me. I'm just going through some stuff, okay, she said, but the way she said it made me feel like I was the last person she wanted to talk to. That's when I decided to give her space. I told myself that if she needed time, I'd give it to her. But as the days passed, her behavior became even more erratic. She started disappearing more often, going out with friends without telling me where or who with. When I asked her about it, she always gave me vague answers or changed the subject. The more she pulled away, the more confused and hurt I became. One evening, I came home early from work. I had been planning to surprise her, but when I walked into the living room, the surprise was on me. Jessica's phone was sitting on the coffee table, screen up. Normally, I wouldn't have thought anything of it, but this time, something felt off. I picked it up without thinking. Her messages were open. And what I saw shook me to my core. There were conversations with someone I didn't recognize. The messages weren't innocent. They were intimate. Flirty. The texts were full of private jokes, heart emojis, and plans to meet up. I couldn't believe my eyes. This was not the woman I had trusted, the woman I thought I knew. I didn't know what to do. My hands were shaking as I read the messages over and over again, unable to understand what had been going on behind my back. How had I not seen it? How had I missed the signs? The woman I thought was my soulmate was living a double life, hiding something from me that I could never have imagined. The room felt suffocating as I sat there, staring at Jessica's phone in my hands. The texts were still fresh in my mind, each word cutting deeper into my chest. I couldn't believe it. This wasn't just a small mistake or a misunderstanding. It was something real, something that couldn't be ignored. Jessica had been lying to me, and I felt like the world around me was crumbling. I didn't know what to do next. Part of me wanted to throw the phone across the room, to demand answers right then and there. But another part of me, an irrational part, wanted to hold on to the hope that I had misread everything. That maybe, just maybe, there was an explanation for what I had seen. But no matter how much I tried to rationalize it, the evidence was staring me in the face. I had to confront her. I had to know the truth. When Jessica walked through the door later that evening, she immediately noticed the tension in the room. It wasn't hard to tell. I was sitting there, clutching her phone in my hands, and I couldn't stop the shaking in my hands. She froze in the doorway, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Why do you have my phone?" she asked, her voice steady but guarded. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I stood up and walked toward her, handing her the phone. "We need to talk," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I could feel the anger and hurt bubbling up inside me. Jessica looked down at the phone, her face going pale as she saw the messages. For a moment, there was silence. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. The silence said it all. She knew I had found out. "What is this, Jessica?" I finally asked, my voice shaking with a mix of disbelief and rage. "Who is this person? Why didn't you tell me about them?" Her eyes darted around the room, as if she was looking for a way out, some escape from this conversation. She opened her mouth, but the words didn't come. She wasn't ready to face me, not yet. I didn't want to hurt you," she said softly, her voice breaking. "I didn't mean for it to get this far." I stared at her, feeling a mix of betrayal and confusion. "Get what far? How long has this been going on?" Jessica looked down at the floor, unable to meet my gaze. "It started a few months ago." I was feeling lost. "I didn't know how to talk to you about it, and then one thing led to another." The words came out in fragments, and I could tell she wasn't being entirely honest. It didn't matter, though. The damage was already done. She had cheated, and she had kept it from me, not just once, but for months. "How long?" I demanded again, more forcefully this time. "How many times?" "Just a few times," she murmured, barely audible. "It was never about you." I was just confused. I made a mistake. Her words felt like a slap in the face. "A mistake?" I repeated, my voice rising. "Is that how you justify it? Is that how you justify betraying me?" I could feel my entire body trembling with anger, but I couldn't bring myself to walk away. I needed to hear the truth, even if it hurt. "I never wanted to hurt you," she whispered, her eyes brimming with tears. "I swear, I didn't mean for it to happen." "Then why did you keep it a secret?" I asked, my voice now almost desperate. "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you come to me when you were confused? If we were really as close as you said, why didn't you talk to me?" For a long time, Jessica didn't answer. She just stood there, tears running down her face. I wanted to yell at her, to tell her how much she had hurt me, but somehow, all I could do was stand there, waiting for her to give me the one thing I needed, the truth. "I don't know," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know how to. I thought I could fix it on my own, but I was wrong. I never meant for this to happen." Her words hung in the air, thick with guilt and regret, but none of it mattered to me anymore. The person I had thought I knew so well, the woman I had built my life with, was not the person standing in front of me. The trust had been broken, and no apology could ever undo that. The days that followed our confrontation were nothing short of torturous. I couldn't escape the images of Jessica's face, the way she cried, the way she apologized over and over again, as if her words could somehow erase the betrayal. But I knew, deep down, that nothing could ever fix what had been broken. I tried to move past it, at least on the surface. I went through the motions, going to work, talking to friends, pretending that I wasn't a wreck inside. But every time I looked at Jessica, all I saw was the woman who had lied to me, the woman who had kept secrets from me for months. Every word she said felt like a reminder of how little I truly knew her. We tried to talk about it, but the more we did, the further apart we seemed to grow. She begged for forgiveness, told me how much she regretted what she had done, but I couldn't find it in myself to forgive her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I didn't know what to do. I loved her, or at least I thought I did. But trust is fragile, and once it's shattered, it's nearly impossible to rebuild. I kept asking myself if it was worth trying to fix it. Could I ever see her the same way again? Could we go back to the way things were? It was during one of these sleepless nights, when the silence between us felt suffocating, that I made a decision. I had to get away. I needed time to think, time to process everything that had happened. I couldn't do it under the same roof as her, surrounded by all the memories of the life we had built together. I needed space, not just from her, but from the person I had become since discovering the truth. I didn't tell her right away. I just packed a bag and left. I went to stay with a friend for a while, hoping that a change of scenery would help me clear my mind. But the truth was, I felt lost. I felt like I didn't know who I was without Jessica. For so long, we had been a unit, a team. Now, I was just a man trying to pick up the pieces of a life that felt broken beyond repair. When I returned to our apartment a week later, Jessica was waiting for me. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen from crying, but there was a quiet determination in her demeanor. She didn't beg anymore. She didn't plead for my forgiveness. She had given me the space I needed, and now, she was ready to talk. "I've been thinking," she said softly as I walked through the door. "About everything. About what I did, and about us." I didn't say anything. I wasn't sure I was ready to listen. But she kept going. "I love you," she said, her voice trembling. "And I know I messed up. But I swear, I never wanted to hurt you. You were always my priority. And I understand if you can't forgive me, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. Truly sorry." I didn't know how to respond. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to be the man who could forgive and move on. But my heart wasn't in it. The trust was gone, and no amount of apologies could bring it back. For the next few days, we remained in a kind of uneasy limbo. She would talk to me about what happened, but I could never get the image of her betrayal out of my mind. Every time she reached out, I recoiled, unsure of whether I was willing to take the leap of trusting her again. And then came the day when I realized I couldn't stay. I couldn't live like this anymore. The pain of knowing what she had done, the uncertainty of what she might do in the future, was too much to bear. I told her I was leaving. The moment I said those words, "I'm leaving," it was as though the air was sucked out of the room. Jessica's face drained of color. She didn't say anything at first, just stood there, her hands trembling at her sides. I could see the tears welling up in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. "Not yet." "You're serious," she finally whispered, almost as if she couldn't believe what I had just said. I nodded. My throat felt tight, and my chest ached, but I knew in that moment that leaving was the only thing I could do. We were at an impasse. The foundation of trust we had built our relationship on had crumbled, and no amount of apologies or second chances could fix it. I had tried. I had given her the space, the opportunity to make things right. But in the end, it was my heart that couldn't move past what had happened. It wasn't just the affair that hurt me, it was the lies, the deceit, the realization that I didn't know her as well as I thought I did. "I don't want to leave you," I said, my voice cracking. "But I can't keep living like this. Not after everything. I thought I knew who you were, but now I'm not sure. And that scares me more than anything else." Jessica collapsed onto the couch, her face buried in her hands. "I never meant for it to end this way. I don't want to lose you," she sobbed, her body shaking with the weight of her emotions. "Please, don't go. Please, don't leave me. I swear, I'll do anything to fix this." I wanted to stay. I wanted to hold her and tell her everything would be okay. But the truth was, I didn't believe that anymore. We had been through too much, and there were too many things left unsaid. I had tried to make it work, but now I needed to be true to myself. "I don't know how we can fix this," I said quietly, my voice barely audible. "I don't think we can." The silence that followed was suffocating. It was the kind of silence that speaks volumes, The kind that makes you realize that sometimes, the hardest thing to do is walk away. And yet, it felt like the only choice left. I gathered my things, my heart heavy with the knowledge that what we had was over. There was no dramatic scene, no shouting, just the quiet pain of knowing that this chapter of my life was coming to an end. Jessica didn't try to stop me as I walked out the door. She didn't beg me to stay, though I could see the devastation in her eyes. We both knew it was over. As I closed the door behind me, I couldn't help but feel a sense of finality. I had walked away from the woman I had loved, the woman I had built a life with. And yet, in that moment, I felt more free than I had in weeks. I didn't have the answers, and I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for sure: I needed to find myself again. Leaving was the hardest thing I've ever done, but walking away from Jessica was also the most necessary. The weeks that followed were a blur of emotions, confusion, and disbelief. I moved into a small apartment, trying to rebuild a life that felt foreign to me. Everything about my surroundings was a reminder of the life I had left behind, the furniture we had picked out together, the pictures that had once been filled with happy memories, now just empty frames of a past that no longer existed. I spent the first few days in a haze, not knowing what to do with myself. I had cut off all contact with Jessica, but the silence was deafening. I couldn't get rid of the image of her face, the way she looked at me when I left, like a piece of her had died that day. I wondered if she regretted it, if she wished she could take everything back. I wondered if I would ever be able to forgive her, or if I was destined to carry this weight with me forever. My friends were supportive, but they didn't understand the depth of the pain I was going through. "You did the right thing," they kept telling me. "You deserve better." But it didn't feel like it. It didn't feel like the right thing. It just felt like the only thing. I tried to distract myself, working longer hours, hitting the gym, spending time with people who didn't know the story. But no matter how much I tried to ignore it, the questions kept coming back. Had I made a mistake by leaving? Would I regret it down the line? One evening, after a particularly draining day at work, I received a text from Jessica. It was simple, just 2 words: "Can we talk?" I stared at the screen for a long time, unsure of what to do. Part of me wanted to reach out, to hear her side of things, to see if maybe, just maybe, there was a chance to rebuild what we once had. But another part of me feared that if I responded, I would be dragged back into the chaos. I had left for a reason, to regain control, to find peace. Could I really go back to her and expect everything to be okay? After much internal debate, I decided to meet her. I owed it to myself to hear her out, to at least get closure. The coffee shop we agreed on was quiet, almost eerily so, with soft jazz playing in the background. When she walked in, her presence seemed to fill the room, and for a moment, I was back in that world where everything was normal. But it didn't take long for the reality to settle in. We sat across from each other in silence for a few minutes. She looked tired, her eyes red from crying. It was clear she hadn't been sleeping, and I wondered how much of this was weighing on her, how much of it was eating her alive. But I couldn't feel sorry for her, not yet. "I'm sorry," she said finally, breaking the silence. "I know I don't deserve a second chance, but I had to at least try to make things right. I've been a wreck without you. I've realized so much about myself, about what I need, and about how much I've hurt you." Her words hit me harder than I expected. I wanted to tell her that it was too late, that no apology could ever fix what she had done. But instead, I just listened. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, maybe some kind of sign that she had truly changed, maybe some hope that I hadn't made a mistake. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she continued, her voice trembling. "But I want you to know that I've been working on myself. I've been seeing a therapist, and I've been trying to understand why I did what I did. I never wanted to hurt you, and I hate that I did." I didn't know what to say. The hurt still burned inside me, but I also couldn't deny that hearing her words made me feel something, maybe not hope, but something close to it. For a brief moment, I wondered if there could ever be a way forward, if there was even a possibility of moving past this. But then I remembered why I had left in the first place. The betrayal wasn't something that could be wiped away with a few words. The damage was done, and while I wanted to believe her, I couldn't shake the feeling that things would never be the same. I don't know if I can ever forgive you, I said quietly, my voice thick with emotion. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. I don't know if we can ever go back to what we were. Her face fell, but she nodded, as if she had expected that response. There was no pleading this time, no desperate attempts to win me back. She understood the gravity of the situation. I understand, she said softly. And I don't expect you to change your mind. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry. And I'll always love you, even if you can't love me back. As I walked away from that coffee shop, I felt more confused than I had in weeks. Part of me wanted to believe Jessica, wanted to think that she had truly changed, that there was a chance for us to rebuild what we had. But another part of me knew that what we had was lost. It wasn't just the affair, it was everything that had led up to it, all the little things that had built up over time and left me questioning who she really was. The truth was, I didn't know what I wanted anymore. I had spent so much time blaming her, hating her for what she had done, that I hadn't allowed myself to ask the hard questions. What did I need? What did I want from life now that everything had changed? The first few days after the meeting were the hardest. I couldn't stop thinking about Jessica's words, about the way she had looked at me, so vulnerable, so open. It felt like I was being pulled in two directions. Part of me wanted to reach out to her, to give her another chance, to see if we could fix things. But the other part of me knew that I had already given her everything, my trust, my heart, and that she had shattered it. I tried to distract myself, threw myself into work, started going out with friends more, trying to fill the emptiness that had been left behind. But nothing seemed to help. Every time I was alone, the doubt crept in. Should I have given her a chance? Could we have made it work if I had tried harder? One night, I sat down with a bottle of whiskey and scrolled through old photos of us on my phone. I could almost hear her laugh, see her smile in every picture, and for a moment, it felt like nothing had changed. It was easy to get lost in the past, to remember the good times before everything fell apart. But reality always brought me back. And reality was that I couldn't ignore the fact that the trust was gone, that the betrayal had left a scar too deep to heal. The decision was looming, and I knew I had to make it. I couldn't keep living in limbo, torn between wanting to fix things and knowing that maybe some things can't be fixed. The next time Jessica texted me, I didn't hesitate. I called her, and when she answered, her voice was quiet, like she had been waiting for this call. "Hi," she said softly. "Are you okay?" "I don't know," I replied honestly. "I've been thinking about everything, and I can't keep going back and forth like this. I need to make a decision." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "What are you thinking?" she asked, her voice shaky, as if she already knew the answer. "I think it's time for me to move on. I think it's time for both of us to move on." There was no dramatic reaction, no pleading or begging. She had already accepted that this was coming, but hearing the words out loud seemed to crush her. I could hear the quiet sobs in the background, but I didn't know what to say to comfort her. She had caused the hurt, and I was the one who had to carry it. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know I messed up. I never wanted to hurt you." "I know," I said, my voice softening. "But this is the only way forward. For both of us." The silence that followed was thick, filled with all the unspoken words and emotions we had both been holding on to. Finally, she spoke again, her voice barely audible. "I'll always love you," she said, the words breaking through the silence like a final, painful farewell. "I'll always care about you, too," I replied, though I wasn't sure if it was true anymore. "But I can't live in the past. I need to move on." We ended the call quietly, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. The weight of the decision had been heavy, but now that it was made, there was a strange sense of relief. I had to let go. We both did. As I sat there, looking out the window at the city lights below, I realized that I was scared. Scared of moving on, scared of being alone, but also scared of staying stuck in something that wasn't working. Life was unpredictable, and I didn't know what the future held. But for the first time in a long while, I felt a flicker of hope. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was ready to find my way again.